Thanks. Thank you. It's great to be here with you in Delhi. You know, throughout history, there have always been inventions that have changed the world. The telephone, printing press, the television and radio, railways and automobiles. All these inventions changed our lives and changed society because they helped connect people. When people are connected, we can accomplish some pretty amazing things. We can get closer to the people that we care about. We can get access to new jobs and opportunities and ideas. We can receive education and healthcare and communication and access to new services. But technology isn't progress by itself. Instead, it enables progress and a lot of the things that we care deeply about. But technology, it has to serve the whole of society. Connectivity can't just be a privilege for some of the rich and powerful. It needs to be something that everyone shares and an opportunity for everyone. So in July, we started working with Airtel to launch free basic internet services in Zambia. And for the first time, hundreds of thousands of people started to get access to services like Wikipedia and Google and local news and information. And we started to hear some pretty amazing stories rolling in pretty quickly. An expectant mother using the internet to learn about information about her pregnancy and how to care for her child. An elderly man who used to have to walk a far distance to go to a local library now could find and download the books that he wanted to read online. A student who is studying for exams could use Wikipedia to save time and money getting the information that she needed to study. So these are just a few of the benefits of being connected. And when the benefits of this technology are shared across the whole society, that's when we can start to make a really big leap forward. So that's what we're excited about. Now, throughout history, India has always been really good and shown an ability to make these leaps. Because of the Green Revolution, you lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty and showed that this country can feed itself. Because of how you've embraced the computer revolution, you have a vibrant computer industry and a lot of the best engineers in the world. Just last month, India became the first country in Asia and one of the only countries in the world to send a probe to Mars. It's a huge technical achievement. Now, because you've embraced science and research and education, now the next generation here has the opportunity to define the future and bring India to the world and the world to India. And a key to this next big opportunity is going to be embracing the internet. Because if you embrace the internet, you can transform lots of people's lives. And you can touch and you can improve people's lives and these communities even more in the next generation than you were able to in the last. But we have a long way to go to get there. Because today, only about a third of people in the world have access to the internet at all. More than two-thirds of people, or about two-thirds of people, don't. Only 2.7 billion people have any access. Here in India, it's a bit better. You have 243 million people are connected to the internet, and more than 100 million are on Facebook already. So, I mean, that's a big achievement. But, there's still more than 1 billion people in India who can't connect and don't have access to the same opportunities as everyone else. And because of this, I think that the whole world is being robbed of those people's ideas and creativity. So it's not just those folks who are missing out, but we really all are. Now, it's easy to assume that it's just a matter of time before everyone gets connected, right? After all, most people have mobile phones, and for a lot of us, it's actually pretty hard to even imagine what a mobile phone is without an internet connection. But if you think about the cost of having a mobile phone with an internet connection, the vast majority of that cost isn't actually the phone itself, it's the connection and the internet access. So it's actually pretty easy to imagine a world where, unless we can decrease the cost of getting access to the internet, where the majority of people will end up having phones, but no reliable access to the internet. So we really need to change this and make it so that this is affordable and so that everyone can have access to the internet all the time. So for the last 10 years, Facebook has been on this mission to make the world more open and connected. And for us, that really means the whole world, not just the people in the countries that are already connected and are on the internet today. We believe that connectivity is a human right, and that connectivity and getting connectivity for the world is one of the fundamental challenges of our generation. So we want to help build an internet that works for everyone. Last year, we launched this effort, internet.org. It's our effort with a handful of other technology companies to bring affordable basic services to everyone in the world. And we've already made some good progress. In the last year alone, we've already helped more than 3 million people get access to the internet. But this is really just a start when you think about the scale of the problem. And in order to really tackle this, we're going to have to solve and knock down all of the major barriers that people have to connectivity. So that's what today in this summit is all about, is discussing those and how we can make progress on knocking down those barriers. Over the last few years, we've done a lot of research to understand each of these barriers. And last week, we published with McKinsey a report that goes into a bunch of detail on a number of these barriers. So now we know that there are 4.5 billion people who are not connected at all, who are offline. 3.4 billion of these people are in just 20 countries in the world. 920 million of these people are not connected because they can't read. A little more than 1 billion aren't connected because they don't live near an existing mobile network. So they just can't get access to 2G or 3G signals. So what this research shows is that there are these 3 major barriers to connecting everyone. The first barrier is infrastructure. For 10 or 15% of the world's population, the primary barrier is a technical one. They just don't live within range of an existing 2G or 3G network. So most of these people live in very remote or rural locations, and a lot of those places also lack other basic infrastructure like roads or electricity. There are more than 600,000 villages in India that face these kind of challenges. And tomorrow I'm meeting with Prime Minister Modi, and I know he's incredibly committed to connecting all of these different villages, and I'm excited to see how Facebook can help in this initiative to do that. But building and maintaining this kind of traditional infrastructure in these villages it's really expensive and difficult. And when you look at connecting the whole world, it's actually not the main problem that most people have. Today, more than 85% of people already live within range of an existing network. So for these people, the primary challenge is economic, or the next challenge is economic. Around 2.5 billion people in the world live on less than $2 a day. So even though phones and data access are getting cheaper over time, it's still not affordable for most people. And so you could just say, all right, so what would happen if we just lowered data? Even if mobile operators lowered their prices, that might help some more people connect in the near term, but it wouldn't be sustainable because the infrastructure that operators have to build out, they spend tens of billions of dollars a year on. And if they just lowered prices without also increasing the efficiency of the infrastructure that's required, then that isn't a sustainable way to operate and spread the internet. So there are all these economic barriers as well. But the biggest set of barriers are actually social. One big barrier to internet use is the lack of relevant local language content. And this is going to be a big theme that I'm going to come back to in a bit and that we'll talk about, and that's a lot of what this summit is. In some communities, people can't connect because it's just not culturally acceptable. Our research has found that in developing countries, 25% fewer women than men are connected to the internet. And if we want to live up to our full potential, we really need an internet where every woman has the right to get connected and get online. So that's an important cultural and social barrier. But the biggest barrier is actually that a lot of people who have never experienced the internet just don't know why they would want it or why it's a useful thing for them. A recent survey that we did shows that 69% of people in India who are not connected, if you ask them why they're not connected, what they say is that they don't know why the internet would be useful for them, which is kind of mind-boggling if you think about it. But if you think about it for a moment, it makes sense. Because most people can actually afford some basic connectivity. But if you grew up and you never had access to a computer, and you never had access to the internet, and you haven't used the internet, and then someone asked you, do you want to buy a data plan, then you'd probably also ask, why would I want that? So these are all kind of big social barriers. And over the last few years, we've been working towards knocking down each of these big barriers. In the US, one model that we talk about from time to time is, you can always call 911, or in India, it's similar. You can dial 100 to access the police. But you can dial 911, and even if you haven't paid for a phone plan, you can always get free help if there's a medical emergency, or if there's a crime or a fire, or something else that you need help with or you're in danger. And I think that there needs to be a 911 for the internet, where even if you haven't bought a data plan or can't afford that, you can get free access to some basic services for health, education, jobs, communication, just some really important basic things. So one of the main things that we've done over the past year is we've started working with operators in a few countries. To start in Indonesia, in the Philippines, and Tanzania, and Paraguay, to start offering free basic services to folks. And the idea is that this starts to break down some of the biggest social barriers, because it makes it so that folks can start to experience the internet and use some things and understand why it would be valuable for them, and get exposure to other services that they might over time want to pay for, which in turn makes a more profitable model for operators and allows them to invest more in building out the infrastructure required to deliver the internet at a greater scale. So far, with deploying these tests in this model, we've already helped connect more than 3 million people. So we're really excited and proud of this. In July, Airtel became the first partner that we worked with to launch the Internet.org app with free basic services in Zambia, including providing free data access for tools like health and education and jobs portals. So the results there are really encouraging, and we're looking forward to doing more and bringing this Internet.org app to a lot more countries soon. Now, we've worked on trying to help solve some of these other barriers too. So over the last year at Facebook, we've changed the way that we build products in order to design them to be more data efficient for folks who have lower bandwidth or just higher data costs. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is that in the last year we've improved our Android app to make it 50% faster and use 50% less data, which is a really big saving for on your data bill, especially in high data cost areas. And to continue making our app use even less data and become even more performant in developing countries, we built this whole system that internally we call air traffic control. And what it lets us do is simulate network conditions all over the world and all different operators and environments. We're also working with Ericsson, one of our Internet.org partners, to build an Internet.org lab where all developers and companies can come and test and refine how their apps will work in developing countries as well by simulating different network conditions. So there's a lot more here to do that we're excited about. We're also doing some work to address some of the physical challenges to connectivity that the 10 or 15% of folks who live outside of range where there's just no existing network infrastructure are. So deploying traditional network infrastructure to connect rural communities with low population density isn't really cost-effective or practical, which is why it hasn't been done yet. So we're working to develop new technologies that can be more efficient for doing this and to help connect these 15% of people. So earlier this year, we launched the Connectivity Lab, which is designing new technologies like satellites and solar-powered planes that can beam down internet from the sky and help connect folks in these areas that traditional technology hasn't been cost-effective to deploy. So we're looking forward to doing more here too. There's a huge amount that can be done. So now, I also want to talk today about really the last barrier to connectivity. Sure that we can deliver more local language content. All right.
There we go.
Thank you. So this is a really important challenge, and it's one of the things that I really hope we make a lot of progress for over the next couple of days at this Internet.org summit. Today, more than 80% of the content on the internet is in just 10 languages. So for developing countries, especially in Asia and Africa, a lot of the people just aren't well represented online, especially in their local language. In India, there are 22 official languages and 11 scripts, and there are hundreds of other unofficial languages. But even though a lot of people speak these languages, there isn't a lot of content online in these languages. And most of the services that people use are really just available in English and a few other languages. But if we want to connect everyone in the world, then we really need to build services that reflect the languages and the way that people speak and communicate. So we need services and content that and good product experiences in everyone's languages. So this is something that we at Facebook believe really deeply in. And since 2007, we've been working on our own language localization. So right now, one of the things that we're proud of is that more than 65% of people use Facebook in a language other than English, including 10 different Indian languages that we continue to work on to make sure that our products not only are translated well, but that the whole experience is optimized for working well in those languages. Now, we still have a long way to go to get the whole internet to the level that this is at. So today we're announcing a couple of new programs that we think will help out in getting there. We're launching this contest to drive development of new apps and services in local languages. We're creating an initial fund of $1 million to help developers build and scale apps that will help serve farmers and migrant workers and students and women. And we're going to run this competition, and we're going to provide funding to the top apps in each of these categories. And we're basically going to look at the different apps that get made and try to figure out which ones will have the biggest impact on people and communities in developing countries. We're also, in addition to that, going to extend a program that we already have called FB Start, which offers up to $40,000 in free tools to developers building these kind of apps to help them build, grow, and monetize the experiences that they're building. So connecting the world is not something that any one company can do by itself. Right? So we have to work together with developers and entrepreneurs and businesses and leaders and governments to deliver all these services and the content that people need. And I'm really excited to see how people use these tools and what comes out of these contests to help push this forward. So that's how we're approaching connecting the world with Internet.org. Connecting the world, we really believe, is one of the fundamental challenges of our generation. And progress is going to be difficult here, and it's not guaranteed. But I think if we work together, we can really make a big impact on knocking down some of these barriers to connectivity, both here in India and all over the world. India it's this amazing country with unlimited potential. And if we can connect more people here, we can not only improve the lives of hundreds of millions of people in India, but we can help bring this rich culture and imagination and innovation to all of the rest of the world. So I hope you'll join us in doing this. Thank you.